Hi everyone, thank you so much for your presence. I welcome you to this particular podcast. So happy to have you here with us today. I want to start off by a couple of pictures. Now, these pictures are of paintings. They're from the net. These paintings are by one of my favorite artists, Salvador Dali. So some of you who would be familiar with Dali's work would know these particular paintings. You would have seen them. But I'm sure they're always great to have another look. And for those of us who would be seeing it for the first time, I want to ask a question when I show you these pictures. It might seem a little bit strange as to why am I showing you these pictures and how they're connected to the topic that we have for today, but they are. So let's start off without further ado with the pictures. I'm going to show you now on your screen. You're going to see this particular painting, the picture of the painting, and there is where you would see a man, and he has a hand on his chest. The upper part of his body is being shown. Now, if you look closely, can you see something else also in this picture? It's very interesting to see once you start spotting. So some of you would have started spotting. Look closely and you would see a little clue is near the man's ear. If you look closely, you would see that there's actually a lady with a baby in her arms. And what appears to be the hand on the man's chest, actually, if you look closely, looks like it's a dog lying on the street. If you look even more closely, you will see something else where the man's eyes are. It looks like there is another man in that particular area with a hat, a beard, and he seems to have a kind of a stick in his hand. And even if you look at other parts of this picture, you're going to see many, many more such beautiful things which don't appear at first sight. It appears to be something else, but when you look closely, it's actually something else. In the same way, I'm going to move on to another painting. If you all are interested, you can just do a search on the net. You're going to get many of these paintings by Dali, and very interesting to see how he has managed to create these amazing, amazing works. So let's go on to the next one. Now, in this one, you would see two people looking at each other, a lady and a man. Now, if you look closely, you would see that in the lady's face is another lady. And in the man's face is another man. In fact, he's strumming a guitar. And it looks like he's singing a song. In the man's ear, if you see, it looks like there is a lady stepping out. And you'll actually be able to see many, many more of these very, very interesting things in this picture also. So again, it appears on first sight something else, but when you look closely, it's something else. Now I'm going to come back to the podcast, but for those of you who are interested, as I said, you can go on the net and you can see many, many more of these pictures. They're very, very interesting to spend a little time and get to know as to what was behind, what is behind each of these little facets of the paintings. So moving on to our podcast, how are these paintings related to what we have for the podcast today? Well, I want to carry on now to a story. This is a story from the Himalayas. I want to take you all the way to the Himalayas, where we have a species of a deer. They call the musk deer. So the musk deer is supposed to have a pouch inside its body, which emanates a fragrance, and the deer can get the whiff of it. So he smells the fragrance and he wants to know where it's coming from. So the story goes that he looks everywhere, behind the trees, the shrubs, the bushes, mountains, riverbeds, everywhere. But he can't get to know where exactly is this fragrance coming from, least realizing that it's coming from within himself. And that is pretty much how we tend to look at the sense of peace. Of course, a lot of times we do look at other things outside of ourselves, but at the same time, they can give us pleasure, and sometimes a lot of pleasure, and they're amazing. At the same time, there is that inner sanctuary, that place of refuge deep within us. And this is the place which we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about it through another story. This is a story again from the land of where the Himalayas are. A majority of them are in India. So I'm originally from India, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that through this story. So the story is titled The Washerman and the Diamond. So there was a washerman who used to go and collect clothes from his customers, like a laundry service, and take them to the river bank and clean the clothes, and then give the clean clothes back to the customers. And like this, other washermen all used to collect at the river bank and do it. One day, this particular washerman finds a stone, a very interesting looking stone. So he says, I'm going to keep it with me. It looks very interesting. He likes it. And like that, he keeps it. And sometimes he'll take it out, look at it, put it back. And like that, days pass, weeks pass, months pass. And there comes a day when he's almost kind of forgotten about this stone, but he knows. If somebody reminds him, he knows. So one day, a friend of his comes to his home, a vegetable seller. And the vegetable seller sees the stone. So he says, oh, what is this? It looks very interesting. He says, oh, you know what I found on the river banks, and I found it interesting, so I kept it with me. So his friend says, can you sell it to me? So he says, how much will you pay me? So he says, 10 rupees. So rupees is the currency in India. So he says, 10 rupees I'll pay you. So the washerman thinks that, oh, you know what? He can get money for this. But he says, okay, you know, I'm not interested right now, but if I am, I'll let you know. So after his friend leaves, the washerman goes to another person and he says, have a look at this stone and let me know what you think of it. So the other person says, yeah, this seems very interesting. Can I have it? I'll pay you for it. And I'll pay a certain amount, you know, like that. The bids keep getting higher and higher. Finally, the washerman reaches a jeweler. The moment the jeweler sees the stone, he says, this is the most magnificent diamond I've ever seen in my life. I will pay you 10 million rupees for it. So the washerman is very happy because once he gets the money, all his poverty will be gone and he'll have all the material comforts which he always wanted. And he is very, very happy with it. Now, this stone, which turns out to be the diamond, is like our awareness, which is always with us. That's our diamond, because that helps us know our experience. Whatever experience that we have is because of our awareness, our consciousness. We use interchangeably. So if we are not conscious, we won't know an experience. It's because of consciousness. Like, for example, are you aware that you are having this experience of seeing this particular video? Yes, that's because of your awareness, that you know that experience of having that experience of seeing. Or are you hearing? Are you able to hear this particular video? Again, that is because of awareness, that you're able to know the experience of hearing. So there can be different things. Sometimes you're tasting something. Do you know? How do you know that? Because of awareness. So like that, objects can change, but the awareness is the same. You might have different emotions. Like, for example, if you're angry, if somebody comes and asks you, how angry are you? And you say, the whole part of me is angry. Every part of me is angry. And there's 99% of you, we say that the 99% of you that's angry, and 1% which is aware that you're angry. And that's how you know the experience of being angry. So that 1% awareness, that pure awareness, which is just observing, which is not the thinking of the thought, but the observation of the thought. That's how you know that you're having that experience. That awareness is what I'm referring to. So the objects can change. You can have different emotions. Sometimes you're angry, sometimes you're sad, sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're worried, sometimes you're concerned, sometimes you're irritated, sometimes you're frustrated. Different emotions, different thoughts, All of that can change, different experiences, but the awareness through which you know that experience is the same. And that is what we are referring to, and a lot of the Eastern wisdom traditions also call as our diamond in that sense. Like the musk deer keeps looking outside, and less, like I said, sometimes outside objects, the objects in awareness do give us that pleasure, but it's that awareness which is a diamond, and that's always with us. And just like the washerman who had that stone didn't really know its value, we keep looking outside, thinking that we're going to get. But what happens when we look outside? Anything, whether it is with our outside world or even in our minds, if you look at it, our sensations, our thoughts, our emotions are all ever changing. Yeah, they're impermanent. And this knowledge of impermanence can be extremely valuable for us to know when we are going through something that we don't like. It could be a pain in our body. It could be a financial situation that we are going through. It could be something to do with our personal relationships. It could be to do with anything, but something that we are uncomfortable with. So they say that there is a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is the first arrow and suffering is the second arrow. So pain, chaos can always be there and may always continue to be there. But suffering is optional. Suffering is what we tend to do. Once we get the first arrow, we tend to shoot the second arrow towards ourselves. And why do we do that? Because we think that whatever we are going through is right now always going to be there. We tend to look at it as permanent. But slowly, slowly, as we look at it, so for example, right now, if you notice the thoughts in your mind, they're changing. When you started off this talk, one thought would have been there. After another second, microseconds, in fact, they keep changing. When you woke up in the morning, maybe the first thought could have been, oh, so it's morning. Then let me get a cup of coffee. Then let me go and brush my teeth. Then something else. Then, oh, this coffee is not great. Or I have to do this, I have to do that. Another thought, another thought, another thought. Changing, changing, changing. So every time that's changing. In fact, a research says that on an average, a person thinks 50,000 thoughts a day. And that's on an average. For some of us, it could be even more than that. Of course, for some, it could be less also. But they keep changing all the time. But have you noticed that sometimes when we are uncomfortable about something, we tend to think that this is really uncomfortable and we tend to give it a lot of weightage, thinking that it's always going to be there. But once we realize that it's impermanent, then we can have that distance between it and us. How do we do that? Is before I go